I'm good. Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. This way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this point, I'd look for a motion to go into closed session for discussion and/or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under general laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, and A9.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. We're in executive session. Okay, thank you. Good evening. At this point, return to open session. First action, we vote, looking for a motion for a vote to seal the minutes of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There were no votes taken in executive session. Next item is recognitions. We have a recognition of, and forgive me because I am not going to pronounce it correctly, Meredith Bisregane. Oh, is that right? Terrific. Recipient of the 2023 Benjamin Peterson Award for Excellence in Teaching Secondary School Chemistry. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Testa, and thanks school committee and superintendent for having us here today. I'm just going to read a little bit about the process and just a couple of the recommendations. So, from the Rhode Island Society of the American Chemical, the Rhode Island section of the American Chemical Society. We would like to congratulate you on being selected as a recipient of the 2023 Benjamin Peterson Award for Excellence in Teaching Secondary School Chemistry. Your excellent resume and enthusiastic letters of recommendation leave no doubt that you are a very effective and passionate teacher of chemistry, and that Pilgrim High School is very fortunate to have you as part of our staff. With that, I was looking at the letters of recommendation, and there was a paragraph I just wanted to read to you, because this person who wrote this said that this is one of the easiest recommendations she's ever had to write for a teacher, and it just flew right off. It says, Mrs. Bisregane is one of those rare educators who inspires passion and interest in all of her students. She brings chemistry to life and a love for learning to her students. I have observed her outstanding pedagogy, where she skillfully scaffolds challenging chemistry content into tangible real-world applications of knowledge to students of all abilities. Her passion and dedication has inspired many students to pursue careers in science and in education. At this time, I just want to say that we are so lucky to have her here at Pilgrim High School, and are really proud of her passion and how she relates it along to all of her students. It's Meredith Bisregane.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Beautiful flowers. Oh, thank you so much. Sure. Thank you.
All right, one photo then. There we go. Perfect. Chemistry.
Thank you.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you again.
Next on the agenda would be public comment on agenda items. Public comment is 30 minutes. I respectfully ask anyone to keep their comments to 2 minutes, please. I'm trying my best to police this. I don't want to interrupt anybody, but I just may. So just state your name when you come up to the microphone, please.
Good evening. My name is Darlene Netko. I'm a lifelong resident of Warwick, homeowner, taxpayer, voter. I've been teaching for 35 years, 33 of which have been in Warwick, and most of those have been at Tollgate High School. I'm also president of the Warwick Teachers Union. I have a couple comments about a few agenda items. One agenda item is the Warwick's Ride Accountability Ratings. I'm looking forward to the presentation because I'm sure our administration will explain exactly what those ratings mean, other than what is just written in, I was going to say black and white, but they're actually in color on the page. And I just want to remind everyone that the ultimate rating for each school is based on the lowest rating of all of the measures that RIDE rates. So you could have a school that has all 5s and 1 2, and that school would receive a 2 rating. The star rating is not an average. The star rating takes the lowest rating of any of the measures, and that's what the school gets, which is totally unfair. And we would never grade a student paper that way, and we would never grade a student at the end of the year that way. And why schools keep getting graded this way is a travesty. But RIDE is filled with travesties. RIDE is a travesty. And my other comment has to do, once again, with the WELC positions that are on the agenda. I have to stress again the importance of having a certified principal in the building and a certified special educator who will serve as the early childhood coordinator. We have many talented and dedicated individuals in that building, but the building, which is primarily filled with special education students, needs to have this support at the very top in order for everyone in the building to function properly and in order for the students to thrive. So I see those 2 positions are on the agenda again. I hope they get officially voted in, and you can post for these positions and get highly qualified, dedicated individuals to assist the already highly qualified, dedicated individuals on the teaching and support staff and teaching assistant staff that are in that building. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Once, going twice, okay. Okay, next, recommended action. Looking for approval of minutes of public session from April 25th, 26th, May 1st, and May 4th of 2023.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes of executive session, April 25 and April 26, 2023.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of warrants from May 9, 2023.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And approval of transfers from May 9, 2023.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next. Announcements. Personnel is presented. Mrs. Ruggieri.
Can you hear me? Okay. I think you turned it up. Thank you. Tonight I have a few retirements to put before you for a vote. We bid farewell to Dr. Thalia Wood, Social Studies Department Head at Tollgate, effective at the end of the year. She's had 33 years with the district. Dave Sheehan, Guidance Counselor at Widman, who also has 33 years in the district. And Dr. Ann Cecil, the Assistant Director of Curriculum and Federal Grants, who's had 18 years in the district. So we bid them all good luck in their future endeavors and thank them for their service.
I'll be looking for a motion to approve the retirements as presented.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Any discussion? I would just like to wish everybody well. Dr. Cecil, you kind of flew by. It just flew by, right, your years here. So I want to thank you for everything that you've done. Dr. Wood, she and I have had some good social studies and history conversations when I would shadow students before. And Mr. Sheehan, if he's who I think he is, he's very talkative. So now I remember having conversations with him. I wish everybody the best in whatever the future holds for them. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Also have some resignations that need a vote as well. Stephen Mulcahy, General Funds Accountant in the Finance Department. Jameson Meller, Night Custodian at Oakland Beach. Richard Morton, Night Custodian at Cedar Hill. William Marcarello, Assistant Director of Capital and Construction Projects and Administration, and Amanda Aubin, a severe profound special educator at Welk. You may remember you've already approved this resignation once, but she has amended her date. So her new date is on May 5th.
Okay. Move for a motion to approve resignations as submitted.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? I wish everybody well, and wherever it is you go, wish you the best. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And I have one courtesy appointment announcement to make. We welcome Todd Hertow, a helper custodian in the maintenance department. And then I defer to the superintendent for our next appointment.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, members of the community. It is a great honor to announce the appointment of Brandon Bowl, who is our new finance director. The interview team was very impressed with his passion, with his financial background, with his collaborative spirit, and we think he's going to be a great teammate. And Brandon, I'm so happy you're going to be part of the Warwick team. He is a Warwick resident, too. So welcome, Brandon.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Bowl. And pretty soon, Tim who? Who? I am kidding, you know that, so. Okay. Next on the agenda is no coaching, no coaches or anything, right, Mr. Jerry? Okay. Donations and correspondence. Donation to Norwood and Warwick Next Schools from Bethany Doyle, Colleen Ray, Jesse Kelly, and Gina Robray for coats, the value of $1,000 for any child in need. So we thank them. That is a wonderful thing to do for your local communities, so thank you. Next is adoption of policies. KAB, Parent and Family Engagement, second read. Dr. Cecil.
Yes, asking approval of this policy. We went over it at the last meeting. This is our second read for adoption.
Okay, motion to approve second reading of policy KAB.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion or questions for Dr. Cecil? Okay, hearing none, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business. Discussion, presentation, safety and security update, Dr. Taylor and Mr. Magiacomo. So we're going to go down. We're going to have three presentations. We're going to have security and safety, SCL student survey update with Mrs. Murray, and the Warwick accountability ratings with Dr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Just take a moment, on a night much like tonight back in the early fall, we brought to this body an idea for a position for our school safety and district safety and security coordinator. And fortunately, with the support of the committee and the support of the community and the funding through a grant that Dr. Cecil and I worked on, we were able to bring that position to light for the District of Warwick. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our safety coordinator to give us an update on all the work, although in just 6 months, all of the awesome work that's been done in those 6 months, all focused on school and district safety. Mr. Magiacomo.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you, everybody, for giving me the time. So we're going to jump right into it. There is a lot to go over. When I came into the district, into the Warwick School Department, I knew that there were some areas that needed to be looked at pretty quickly, so I had to try and prioritize dealing with the amount of schools and the amount of students, faculty, and staff. So first we're going to talk about some priority goals that we've already achieved. So when we look at the elementary and secondary, some of my first responsibilities were to really look at their safety plans, each individual school having its own plan, kind of looking through those plans and making sure that they were sound and they had all the necessary things to keep those facilities safe. So that's all been collected and reviewed and all submitted to RIDE already. We also looked at reunification sites. Reunification sites dealing with that off-site location that we need to go to during certain types of emergencies, critical incidents. It's been a while since we revisited those things, so that also fell within the priorities that needed to really be looked at. Within those reunification sites, some were created, some were revisited, some were reviewed, and some were actually relocated. As you know, as time goes on, businesses change, all different types of things happen over time, so they really need to be revisited and actually going out on foot and shaking hands and come up with mutual agreements with these facilities as well to make sure that our students have that safety that they need when we do decide to leave a facility for a critical incident. The district now also has new security levels, probably one of the largest changes that we were able to make, something that was needed to be prioritized. Business inside of the schools, normal operation, shelter in place, restricted movement, and lockdown. I know it might sound like a lot, but this is something that I saw from my standpoint, my prior background, is kind of being a little bit confusing. So what I tried to do was I reached out to other school districts, small and large, and at the national level through my network to really try and figure out what other school districts were using. And for the most part, they're all utilizing the same setup when it comes to security levels. And so far, so good. It's working very well so far. We've had a couple incidents inside of our schools where we were able to be all on the same page of music as far as communications. So I'm glad to say that that actually worked and rolled out very, very easily. Some more achievements. Better lines of communications with the Warwick Police and Fire. It's no secret. I spent 21 years in the Warwick Police Department. I created a very large network. I'm very, very fortunate to keep that network close in the police department. I have daily conversations with local police and fire. I still have access into the buildings, which I'm very, very pleased to have. It makes my job a little bit easier as far as making appointments. So my communications with the PD and the fire are constant. Planning for upcoming tabletops. So we've actually started getting to the training portion of what the coordinator is going to focus on, and my background is very, very heavy in training. And a tabletop exercise gives us that opportunity to really see what we have as far as resources and what our communications are with the local first responders. So we've started planning those as well. Other establishments that we've built partnerships within the city, the highway department, working on some of our pedestrian safety, our crosswalks, areas along those lines need to be done. So I meet often with them and have phone conversations with them on a weekly basis. And that's something that needs to be continued. You know, when there are things going on within the city that affects our school students and our facilities, our transportation, we should be in the know when it comes to stuff like that. Updated district hazard plans. That's a living document that constantly need to be updated based on what we change within the district. So we're working on that on a regular basis as well. I've met with almost all of our schools. I've met with all the schools. I've met with the safety teams. More so like an introduction to kind of get my face known inside the schools. Still fairly new, only, Dr. What would we say, 7 months? 7 months, so really trying to lay my tracks within each school and really familiarize myself with everybody that's there. Continued training with the Warwick Police Department and Fire Department as far as security levels. We can't just change a security level within our schools and expect the same response from the police and fire. So police and fire had to be first as far as learning our new security levels, and their response protocols now reflect what our security levels are in our schools. Meaning if they were to show up for a critical incident that was described as a restricted movement, the Warwick Police Department would know how to respond within that facility. We've established protocols with the district's threat assessment team. So a post-threat, so something should come in, a communication will come in, meaning like a threat from an outside source. That established protocol has been made because it needed to be more well-defined, if you would. So key personnel, technology, superintendents, myself, school principals, the local chief of police department as well, all brought into that conversation, whether it's at 6 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning, depending on when the threat might come in. So we wanted to make sure that we had that in line as well. continuing education, I hate to say for myself, but coming into the educational sector, there are a lot of things that I'm still not familiar with. So constant conferences and school safety conferences, online training, that's all continued. I was actually appointed in March 13th to the State School Resource Committee, not having a background as a school resource officer, but being part of a team that consists of 3 police officers, heavy in school resource, as well as a social worker and myself as a school administrator, and that's at the state level. So once again, increasing that network, going past the Warwick School District as well to see what's going on outside within our state. I've formed partnerships with other school districts, federal law enforcement, and state law enforcement. When I came into the district, my phone didn't stop ringing. As soon as other agencies, as far as federal and state, found out that this position existed, they really wanted to tap in and really create that network. Meeting with local lawmakers, lobbying for laws as far as school threats, trying to figure out what's on the books, if you would, within our state as far as laws. So, I talk with state lawmakers constantly, and we're in the process right now of really trying to bring some new laws to protect our students in our schools. I've worked closely with human resources and technology to tighten up access control to our facilities. When we had our upgrade as far as access control and cameras, we had to do a little bit of a purge to get what was in there out and really kind of brainstorm and think of what that might look like. And it was a very, very difficult task, but I'm happy to say that we got it done. Made the needed adjustments to emergency communications during drills, getting everybody back on the same page of music with communications. In my former life as a police officer, lack of communication was dangerous. And I wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page of music when it comes down to certain communications as far as what that sounded like and what it looked like as far as inside of our schools during certain drills. So what's in progress? We've created training materials pertaining to active threat response or active shooter response for the district. So now we'll have a formalized training manual and material moving forward. Onboarding, new employees, other resources, transportation, food services will all get a taste of what that looks like, and everybody's going to get the same information that's going out throughout the entire district. Everybody really needs to be on the same page of music when it comes to dealing with an emergency. I've lectured several schools already up to this point on Run, Hide, Fight. That's been a big portion of the majority of my work right now. It takes up a lot of time. I'm averaging about 2 lectures daily, every other day. A lot of good feedback, and that's something that's going to continue. That will then turn into hands-on within the schools, and we'll talk stuff about defending classrooms and stuff along those lines. We've created materials for parent forums. My idea of school safety revolves around partnership. If we're not bringing our parents into that conversation, we're not doing the best that we can. So bringing the parents in and giving them the opportunity in a short amount of time, maybe about an hour each individual school, and sitting there and talking to parents and talking about what it looks like inside of the school during certain drills. Giving them a little bit of peace of mind to know that when their child comes home and they tell them that they did a certain drill, whether it's a fire drill or a lockdown drill, the conversation should be continued at home. These forums really focus on school safety and drills, and several elementary schools have hosted forums already. So what's in the future? Better emergency internal communication abilities through devices. Bringing that technology back, working closely with Dr. Taylor and Dr. Seisel as far as funding and grants, and really looking to see what's the best and what fits our district the best. District-wide forming for individual school safety plans. Each individual school, like I said, has its own safety plan. I want to make sure that each safety plan is going to be easily read. So formatting those safety plans and making sure that they're all on the same page of music. School walkthroughs identify vulnerabilities. Probably something that will be dealt with in our summer break when the students aren't around, make it a little bit easier for all of us. Warwick Police Department in-service training when it comes to responding to an active threat. When I was working for the police department, the topic of active threat and response was big on my plate. I spent 18 years in the tactical community as well, and I taught that to the police department. I taught it to the other municipal buildings. So now, me being here, boots on the ground within the school department, when the Warwick Police Department decides to host their training, we want to bring them in as a partner. We want the police department to come into our facilities to get a first-hand look as far as what it looks like when they respond. Bringing in key administrators, because those roles need to be defined on what it's going to look like when the police department does show up for a critical incident. Like I said, everything revolves around communications with what I do, and I want to make sure that there's good partnership and there's good communications in between. Bringing the Warwick Fire Department and the Warwick Police Department into the facilities for walkthroughs, familiarity. As you know, our buildings are big. Just Warwick Vets alone, our high schools, outside of an SRO being inside a facility, it's very rare that you see a uniformed police officer or a firefighter inside of the schools. In some of our parent forums, we've had some parents that are local firefighters that have made the request. So these parent forums have opened up conversation about what they think is important, listening to what their needs are, and getting those uniform officers in here as well as fire department to see what the layout is inside of the facility. Hands-on training sessions with faculty and staff on how to secure your classroom. We've done the training portion, the lecture portion. Now it's time to have a little bit more intimate one-on-one sessions inside of each classroom and see what we're working with. The training plans, I mentioned it, for the onboarding of new Warwick School Department employees. Even those outside services such as food services, they play a huge role in school safety. All right, so that's another thing that we're going to be looking forward to that's already scheduled coming up for the summer break. Parent forums are still continuing. I have a couple more set up coming up over the next couple weeks. Those are open. If you are a parent and you can't attend one in your local school where your child may go, you can absolutely show up at one of the others. Several faculty and staff administration trainings as well need to be had. Why? Because we owe it to our administrators to make sure that they're safe inside of the facility as well. And then ultimately establish a training plan for our student population. That's paramount. I don't have a time frame on when that's going to happen, but once this stuff kind of gets put aside, we will start to focus on educating our children on what to do during certain types of emergency. It needs to be age appropriate. We have a lot of students within our population here. It needs to be age appropriate, so we're going to work out a plan on what that may look like and some type of time frame as well. And I believe that is all I have. So I thank you for your time.
Good evening, Chairman Testa, Superintendent Danbrook, and school committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to present the SEL survey results. Before we get started, I just wanted to deepen our understanding about how our schools have been looking at data for several years now using a multi-tiered framework. So MTSS, or a multi-tiered system of support, is a comprehensive continuous school improvement framework, which we use data to make decisions across all levels of the educational system. The framework is the way that we do business in schools. We use high-quality, evidence-based instruction for all of our students. We use intervention for some of the students that need additional support, and we have assessment practices in place to assess how we're doing along the way to ensure that every student receives the appropriate level of support to be successful. Our own in the 4 topics below: the social awareness, learning strategies, emotion regulation, and supportive relationships. And then for our youngest students, their teachers in K through 2 answered 3 very brief questions in each one of the 3 topics below: social awareness, learning strategies, emotion regulation. Prior to the administration of these surveys, we gave leaders and teachers best practices, which meant that we asked teachers to go over any vocabulary, kind of help them with understanding that 5-point scale when they have a choice, and reading to our youngest students, grades 3 through 5. We had their teachers read the questions to them and answer any questions they had. So the 2 surveys are split into elementary and secondary. The reason for this is we don't have an overall score for the entire district because there's differences in the number of questions and even the wordings in some of the questions. So just to orient you to the slide, this is our first slide for our survey for K through 2. You can see over to the left the 3 topics: emotion regulation, social awareness, and learning strategies. In the middle is the overall score or percentage, and then way over to the right is a number with either a green triangle going up or a red triangle going down, and that shows you either the increase or decrease in percentage points since the fall. So here, 71% of students of K through 2, teachers of K through 2 students reported their students are able to regulate their emotions when needed. 68% of teachers of K-2 students report their students are very considerate of their classmates' feelings. And then 53% of teachers of K-2 report that their students use the strategies taught effectively. So moving into grades 3 through 5, and well, beyond, even 3 through 12, the format of the slide is the same for each one of them. I put the topic at the top, the grade level, and then what it's measuring. So supportive relationships overall in our district was our highest, strongest topic. So how supported students feel through their relationships with friends and adults at school. So I also put a snapshot of all the questions that you could see in that topic from highest to lowest. So we had a high of 88 and a low of 85, giving you an average score, an overall score of 87. And so 88% of our students report they can count on a friend from school to help them no matter what. And 85% of students report that they can count on the adults and teachers from school to help them. In social awareness, we had a high of 87 and a low of 39, giving us an overall score of 66. And in this topic, this is how well students consider the perspective of others and empathize with them. So 87% of elementary students report they care quite a bit about others' feelings. 76% of students report they are listening to other people's point of view carefully. And 39% of students report that they can describe their feelings clearly. In learning strategies, we're measuring how well students deliberately use strategies to manage their own learning processes generally. We had a high of 71% and a low of 55, giving us an overall score of 65%. 71% of students report they are sure they can figure out a good way to get their schoolwork done well. 70% of students believe they can figure out how to learn new things well, and 55% of our students report that when they get stuck while learning something new, they are willing to try to learn it in a different way. And then the last topic in grades 3 through 5, emotion regulation, how well students regulate their emotions. We had a high score of 51 and our lowest score of 37 in that topic, with an overall score of 42. So 51% of our students are able to control their emotions when they need to. 44% of students are often able to relax after getting upset. And 37% of students report they can stay relaxed when others around them get angry. So into our secondary survey results, we'll start with supportive relationships again, our highest strongest score. So we had 88% as our highest score in that topic and 63 as the lowest, giving us an overall score of 77. So 88% of our students report that they have a friend from school who they can be completely themselves around. 85% of students report they have a friend from school they can count on to help them no matter what. And 63% of students report that they have a teacher or an adult from school they can be completely themselves around. In social awareness, we had a high of 68 and a low of 28 with an overall score of 52%. Here, students said 68% of them said that they care quite a bit about other people's feelings. 66% of students report listening carefully to other people's point of view, and 28% of students report that they can describe their feelings clearly. In learning strategies, the highest score in this topic for secondary, grades 6 through 12, is a 50%, and the lowest was 44%, giving an overall score of 46. 50% of the students report thinking about the best approach to starting a challenging project. 48% of students report that their learning strategies have helped them learn more effectively. And 44% of students report that they use strategies to learn more effectively. And in emotion regulation, a high of 52, a low of 29, with an overall score of 38. 52% of students report they are able to regulate their emotions when they need to. 39% of our students report that when they are feeling pressured, they can stay in control of emotions. And then 29% of our students report that they are able to pull themselves out of a bad mood. So thinking about this data, really pulling it all together, having this available in an MTSS framework is essential and helps us to figure out how to prioritize the skills that we can teach. What we're trying to avoid is thinking about working in silos. This brings all of our information together to give a more complete picture of our students. Some of our action steps, and this is not inclusive of everything that we're thinking about, but just on a high level, we're going to continue to support and strengthen our MTSS framework, use high-quality evidence-based instruction, intervention, and assessments for SEL, continue to strengthen opportunities for students to practice those SEL skills through student discourse and cooperative learning structures, implement Tier 1 universal approach for social emotional learning to improve student outcomes. Right now we have in place for elementary responsive classroom. In the secondary, we are not up and running yet, but we have a secured Project Aware grant to help us look and fund some different tools and resources to support our teachers. And then continue to provide professional development to all our staff and on SEL and mental health to build foundational knowledge and understanding, continue to share survey results and actions with our community. So how do we do this? Our greatest efforts will be to embed social emotional teaching within academics. We do that by really thinking about our vision of a graduate and crosswalking it with our topics. When you think about social awareness, and we're thinking about how well students consider the perspective of others and empathize with them, we can see that continuous learner and empathetic collaborators have so much language embedded in that with their competencies. In learning strategies, how well students deliberately use strategies to manage their own learning processes generally. An innovative problem solver needs to be curious and creative and be able to take risks and deepen awareness, while critical thinkers need to be able to analyze information, make connections, and apply their learning. And then finally, a skilled communicator has to learn how to use feedback and adapt ideas and respect divergent thinking. And then with emotional regulation, we certainly can see how empowered citizens we are trying to develop responsible, principled, profoundly impact our world students, along with healthy and balanced learners. We want them to be able to pursue both physical and mental health, be able to make responsible decisions, and behaviors for success, self-awareness, and self-regulation. All of this is connected to our mission in Warwick to make sure that we provide a academic, socially and emotionally education through rigorous and relevant practices.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to briefly go over the RIDE, Department of Ed Accountability Ratings for Warwick as a whole. This relates directly to something that I presented earlier this year, which was about the report cards for each school. And like Mrs. Netko said before, the lowest score in the area that you get is the highest one that you can receive in each area. It's very, it's a little confusing, but I'll try to dig into it just a little bit. So what are these ratings? This is basically how RIDE shows where we rank in different categories. This data, I just want you to keep in mind, is from 2021-22. So we're expecting a ton of growth from what you see here, although this is the first time this has been released, and we did pretty well. You'll see in some of these slides coming up. So we want to see blue all the way down. We would love to see dark blue all the way down. And yes, we are on track for that. The only place where we have a focus area, and it's pretty nice, they highlighted it for us. See that, Mrs. Murray? It's quite lovely. So the orange says Diploma Plus measures. That's our high schoolers. And if they do something a little bit extra, like get a seal of biliteracy, or they get a commissioner's seal, something like that, then that helps us in that category. There's a lot more that I could dig into, but we have so many more seniors graduating this year with different commendations, we're going to blow that out of the park next year. So our focus area won't be a focus area anymore. All right, our main areas of improvement, and they do this for the school report cards as well, they'll give you your lowest performing student subgroups. And so you can see here that across the district, these are the areas that we need to focus on for achievement, growth, and graduation rate. If we dig into our ELA growth for language arts, you can see that we're right in the middle of the pack. All students, you can see we have a pretty high score overall. If we were able to meet the next threshold there, we'd be at the very top of the scale. So we have a lot of groups like our English learners, check that out. They're actually above where we need to be for the growth index. So we have a lot of very strong subcategories. A few of them are bringing us down, but overall, I am confident that with the growth that we've shown thus far on iReady and our STAR assessment, that we're gonna be, if we're not at 3 points, much closer to 3 points, let's put it that way. Same thing goes for math. You can see that we have some student categories that are well above that upper threshold, which is where we want to be. Again, we're in the 2 point range, and I do think that we will get very close to 3, if not be at 3 for next year. Our graduation rate, we're right in the middle of the pack. Same kind of thing. It's the same data sets you can look through, and these are all in the folder that everyone has access to. So if you want to dig in a little bit deeper. And so it tells you that our graduation rate is 81%. Our composite graduation rate is 85%. Yes, it is going to be higher. Remember, this is right after COVID, and so we did have some lasting effects from that, but we are definitely on the rebound and making leaps and strides for growth across the district. So the one area that I'm pleading with everyone to help with is student absenteeism. If our students come to school, they learn more, they're engaged in learning, they have to be in school. So anybody who's listening with students in the Warwick school system, anything that you can do to encourage your kiddos to come to school, please do so, because it does directly impact our ratings across the state. And what's next? It's a great question. We've already gone over this data with our school-based leaders. We have aligned the school improvement plans with the school report cards, or at least we've started that process, and we're digging deeply into that tomorrow on our District Professional Development Day, which is wonderful. We have action plans created, and then you can click on that link to see what the report cards are for each school in case you're interested. And if you have any questions, you can just reach out to me at lisa.schultz@warwickschools.org with any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the committee for Mr. Magiacomo, Mrs. Murray, or Dr. Schultz?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Galligan.
For Mr. Magiacomo, I just have a few comments, so you could stay seated if you like. I just want to say great work thus far in your short time with the school district. I look forward to seeing what you continue to add to this school district. We certainly see some groups out there in the public now trying to increase the safety within the schools, which is good, but I think that Warwick has taken the appropriate steps. We're probably one of very few school districts in the state of Rhode Island with a dedicated resource like yourself, so it's great to see the benefits that you're bringing. I would only ask that at the next school committee meeting which you present, if maybe you could also touch on safety at after-school hour events, sporting events, plays, dances, etc. I have some observations. I'll send them over rather than sharing them publicly, but I look forward to what you continue to bring to the school district, so nice job. Regarding the SEL presentation, it's great to see the progress we're making at the elementary level. Looking at the data for the secondary level, obviously a little concerned with seeing the percentages so low. It was nice, the actions that this committee took last week with the budget and making sure that we planned for a couple social workers. That's great, and I saw that you guys are still working out where they'd be seated or where they would support. So I'm hoping that we continue to increase the number of social workers, especially at the secondary level in our middle schools and our high schools. So that's good. So the action plan looks great. Training for staff is awesome. But again, I just would like to continue to see those increased social workers. And then the last thing I have is on the ride ratings. It's one question and one comment for Dr. Schultz. The comment was, thank you very much. The other comment is, I apologize to you on all the different metrics you have to manage there. Some of them, I don't even understand why they would be looking to track that. But just out of general curiosity, absenteeism. Does RIDE take into account COVID? Do they still knock us for COVID-related absences, even though there's some guidance of not coming in? And then do they also take into account kind of like major medical-related absences, you know, where the child just can't get in?
That's a really great question, and we asked the same thing. So they said that they took like a certain percentage off or for free. You know, like buy one, get one at Payless for your shoes, right? But it was a little bit like that, where they gave a certain, I don't know, like a grace period or something for a student to be absent for COVID. They gave it like, you know, say 5 days per kiddo, that kind of thing. So if it was above that, then we were dinged for it. But yes, they said that they did change, you know, accordingly. They didn't give me the exact number, though. They said it was a very interesting and difficult equation that they used. Now, for extended absences, yes, we do get dinged for those. And that's just how it is, unfortunately. So.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chair, I yield.
Any other questions, Ms. Kirby-Chapman?
Hi. Mr. Majocco, so you had mentioned that you looked that crosswalks, the safety of the crosswalks and everything was under you. Have you gone to all the bus stops and checked on their safety? Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
How's that? So crosswalks in general don't really fall under my realm. I don't have a background in crosswalk safety or anything along those lines. More so common sense when it comes to stuff along those lines. And actually being physically able to go out and look at some of these locations and say, yeah, you know what, that crosswalk needs to be repainted. That sign needs to be replaced. That's something anybody in this room could really look at and say it needs to be done. It's communicating. It's getting that communication out to those people that are going to deal with that issue is kind of really where I fell in. Dr. Taylor and myself really sat down and said, you know, the city deals with a lot of construction often. Roadways always under construction, improvements, stuff along those lines. So when it comes to transportation and pedestrian traffic, that's also something that I want to be kind of filtered into. If I'm a coordinator, I can absolutely offer up my services with being mobile and going from school to school and taking a look at each location, the surrounding main roads, side streets, and see what needs to be improved, and then getting that message across to highway. I've spoken to Eric Earls frequently, as recent as today, and learned of updated projects and crosswalks that are being repainted and stuff along those lines. So Dr. Taylor and I, probably about a month ago, we came up with a list of bus depots, areas that were of concern, and really went out, took some pictures, kind of brainstormed and really looked at them and said, well, this has changed, the geography's changed in this location, let's move to this location. Not drastic changes, we don't want to upset people and make their travels more difficult, but just more so common sense changes and say, well, if there's a lot of population here, vehicular traffic, construction vehicles and stuff along those lines, let's move the depot over to, 20, 25 feet away from that location and make sure that they're safe. So going out to some of these depots, looking for crosswalks, painted crosswalks, signage, cross signals, were just some of the things that we started to kind of compile together and really see what needed to be improved on. And I've had real good feedback from Highway already. They're willing to work with us. We met yesterday with Transportation and First Student, and we talked how we can kind of coordinate our efforts. Any upcoming projects that should be communicated can come through me, and I'll filter that information right off to First Student. So if a change needs to be made, we should get the heads up prior to. Simple stuff, no real heavy lifting, but an area that I will absolutely look to venture upon and get involved with if I can.
So would you be comfortable for parents going to you for those kind of questions then?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Would you be comfortable for parents going to you as well, referring to you about the safety of their bus depot?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that coordination should still happen. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. There are people in those positions where it's their duty to take care of those jobs. But spending time in the city, as long as I have, I understand how busy it is, and I know that it can be dangerous in certain areas. But I absolutely would reach out to any parent. I've had conversations with one in particular stop with a parent, a face-to-face conversation, and said, listen, this is the situation. What do you have for suggestions? Let's put our heads together and see what's going to be the best for our students. So yeah, absolutely reach out with a parent.
But I mean, I'm sure your feedback would be appreciated as well.
Sure.
Since you're from the element.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. I was going to ask. So I guess the biggest question would probably be the parent's mind is, so I know that we're looking to better kids' lives, but so when they take the SEL surveys, God, that sounds odd, those are not private, so we know which kid is feeling this way, correct?
Okay, so we can, at a school level, like each leadership team that looks at data can see their student data, along with their teacher can see their rostered student data, so that way, when they're looking at that survey result, they're looking at it in context around academics, behavior, all of those pieces to put a fuller picture together. When we're reporting on this level of data, that doesn't have names attached to it, if that's helpful.
But on the school level, because
At the school level, yes.
So, so I guess it's like parents were concerned, like, what if a kid has a bad day and they're answering these questions on a low level, so now they're going to get marked in this way. How does that affect the kid? How does that affect like how we work with them? Do we say like, hey, some of these might be just a bad day?
Absolutely. And that's exactly why I wanted to kind of put this in context of a multi-tiered system of support. At each one of those levels, those decisions, those protocols that we look at data, we do that all the time. We try not to just make assumptions. We stay low on that, ladder of inference, thinking about, what does this information tell us? What are they trying to describe? But we use all sorts of data points. It's not just that one bad day. That's very likely. And their teachers know them well. They can say right away, this is not typical. But I think, that's the whole idea of having a better picture. The same could be true about math or, ELA or English. Maybe they don't test well, but there's much more for strengths and, these opportunities for students to show and showcase what they have. And so this is another piece of data.
So so again, with carrying a kid from grade to grade, so their grade, their ELA will change as well, emotional.
Right, yeah. It's not at all punitive in any way. It's not a report card in any sorts. It's just information. That's it. It just gives an overall score. And for the most part, our teachers use that more at a classroom level to say, what skills can I help them develop? We don't expect all students to come with these skills. They come being able to learn skills, and that's our job. We don't wait for them to fail. We look at that assessment data, we look at it to make decisions so that we're being proactive and preventative.
And how is the Project Aware going to ties into the surveys?
So Project Aware doesn't not necessarily tie into the surveys, but what it does help us with is getting an overall idea how students are performing. In sense, we made, Mr. Galligan made a comment about secondary scores and needing those social workers. We know that there are mental health issues happening. I mean, there's no doubt. We didn't even need the data to tell us that. But this is going to help us drive decisions about where we need to support our students.
Okay.
I know at the high school level, I know it's very needed. We have a lot of students that are always going to see the student assistance counselor, and the fact that Project Aware will bring someone else in to help with those issues is very needed.
And Project Aware, just to kind of, I didn't probably say this, but I probably said it last meeting, it's going to give us the funding that we need to do training for teachers. I mean, there is no funds for the work that I'm doing, so this helps us to, allow our teachers to have more tools, resources at their fingertip to understand mental health needs.
Mr. Magiacomo, I just want to say I've known Danny for a long time. I felt safer the minute you entered the district. So I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. I know you're going to do amazing things here, and I appreciate that. And Lisa, what do we do about the absenteeism? Do you have anything that you kicking around?
Well, I always encourage the principals to incentivize things that maybe they're struggling with. And so if there's a particular school, for example, that is having one grade where the kiddos are maybe lagging behind a little bit with absenteeism, make it into some type of healthy competition where there's a prize attached to it. Like everybody loves the Kona ice truck, right? When I was at Park Elementary School as the principal, that was the big thing. The Kona ice truck was coming. And so the kids were willing to do so much more practice in iReady just because they were gonna get one of these ice cones. I've never had one. I don't know if anyone in the audience has had a Kona ice, but apparently it's worth it. So, I mean, it's. I think we just have to make it fun whenever possible, but just encourage everyone. Just the kiddos really need to be in school. That's their job, right? As a student, you have to come to school. And so if parents keep sending that message, and of course things come up. I would not say that last year was the best year for the accountability ratings to roll out because of COVID-related absences. So it's not an easy thing. I think this year is going to give us a much
I think so too.
clearer data set. But, and for the students that are struggling with getting out of bed and getting to school, we do have help in the schools that, but I would have them reach out to the principal and just say, can you help? Is there anything that you can suggest? And we have so many resources. And I've also told parents that they should rely on the little robots at home, Alexa. I won't say the name out loud, but those are great for setting timers. And I do that to get my kids out of bed. So I don't know, those are just a few things that I can think of. Okay,
very
sure.
much.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Magiacomo, thank you very much. I am very interested to see what comes in the future on the technology side that we had discussed at one of the meetings before. Mrs. Murray, thank you. The survey update just kind of validates what I think most of us have seen and felt all along. And Dr. Schultz, the Diploma Plus measures, just as one small point, I was at the Pilgrim Awards night last week, and in foreign language, last year they had 2 students with biliteracy seals. This year they had 16. So, I mean, that may be anecdotal. I don't think it is. But I think that little thing, coupled with the data you showed us on K through 8 growth, I really do agree with you that I think next year would be should be a much different picture.
Absolutely, and we have the SAT results in too, and they've shown a market improvement as well. So we're on the up and up, 100% across the board. So I know that we are going to see massive improvement. Change takes time, and we've been on this uphill increase for the past few years, and so it's going to take a couple of years for it to really make a huge difference when RIDE looks at our district as a whole. But we're seeing the strides being made, and absolutely, we have so many more awards given out this year. Things are going really, really well academically.
Yeah, and I agree. And some of these, like performance by student groups, American Indian or Alaskan Native, I'm not sure Warwick has a lot of those. So you can have a very small population that statistically is going to skew this.
Right.
So, it is what it is. Okay, but thank you very much. Okay, next, discussion update, FY 2023 monthly financial report and year-end review. Mr. McGrath.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee. Before you'll find my monthly fiscal report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions to Mr. McGrath? Okay, there's no motion, Mr. McGrath. I'll just state for the record, lunch debt is now $113,000. We should get the ticker that does the national debt. Okay, next item, discussion update, upcoming summer projects. Mr. Gothberg. Good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members, superintendent, community. This summer we've got quite a busy summer, so I'd like to quickly share with the committee and the community what we have planned. We'll start with Windman. As you know, Windman was a 2-year project. So we're going to complete the new window installation. We are going to install a new generator, completion of the new electrical switchgear, completion of exterior doors, completion of the rooftop HVAC equipment, abatement of the boiler room. We did not do that last year. Didn't really have enough time, so we're going to blow that out. We have 4 rooms that we found still have asbestos-containing flooring, so we're going to remove those. Completion in the electrical distribution rooms, balancing of the new HVAC systems, commissioning of the equipment, punch list items, and I hope that we can get out to bid and sneak in a major site work project this summer, which includes paving and sidewalks, and hopefully replace the very poor condition curbing. At Sherman, the majority of the work will be done by the end of May. We will have completion of the new electrical switchgear, which is late due to delivery and supply chain issues, completion of the rooftop units powering up and final connections, balancing of the new HVAC system, commissioning of the new equipment, punch list items, final delivery of the new furniture. Mr. Oliver and his team will be able to get in there and clean it all up, and we can move the furniture back in, and we're going to have a new playground with ADA upgrades. Warwick Neck, we have a new tempered air system, ADA upgrades with toilet rooms and ADA upgrades in 1 classroom per grade. Building envelope, which includes windows and doors, electrical service upgrade, new ceilings in many areas, added electric outlets in all classrooms, and asbestos abatement. Much of the piping throughout the corridors and a couple elbows in each classroom will be abated. At Greenwood, we hope to replace that 1 boiler, get that in, playground with ADA upgrades, building envelope, which includes new windows and exterior doors. Hoxie, we have a great ADA upgrade for the playground. It's going to be really nice. Building envelope, which is doors, and ADA upgrades, which is toilet rooms, and again, 1 classroom per grade. And the nurses' suite has to be reconfigured due to Governor's Commission on Disabilities requirements. At Norwood, major site improvements, rework and repaving of most areas. ADA upgrades, again, toilet rooms, 1 classroom per grade, and again, the nurses' suite has to be upgraded and reconfigured, and building envelope, which includes windows and exterior doors. At Oakland Beach, we have playgrounds with the playground's going to have ADA upgrades. At Park, we're going to have ADA upgrades again with the toilet rooms, 1 classroom per grade, and the nurses' suite upgrade. At Scott, we will have ADA upgrades, again, the toilet rooms, and 1 classroom per grade, and building envelope, which is new exterior doors. At Welk, we have a major playground upgrade. It's about a $300,000 upgrade to that area to make it what it should be for the preschool students. Happy to answer any questions. That's 11 schools that we are trying to hit and planning to hit this year with major work. Any questions for Mr. Gothberg?
Mr. Gothberg, I know that last year we talked about upgrading the playground at Welk. Is this the same plan that we were looking at then?
It's the same plans I presented to Mrs. Martin, yep.
Okay, and this summer, they're going to get it, though?
Yeah, once again, we have supply chain issues. It won't be so bad for Welk. We believe we can get that done by the end of summer. It may go into September, but I can't guarantee it.
But they're getting it?
They are getting it.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay,
we have
good.
five playgrounds this year.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, Mr. Gallagher.
I forget if it was in the first or the second quarter of this year, a lot of our sites went through a fire inspection with the city or with the local fire marshal. A few of the teachers were slightly impacted by the findings, albeit justified, the findings. I'll give one example before I ask my question. The boiler room in the ground floor or the basement floor of Wyman, across from one of the art rooms, they were using that slop sink for water access within the art room. However, now that boiler room door must be closed and locked at all times, preventing unauthorized entry. So do any of the recommendations, do any of the issues identified by the fire marshal that present some need for change, are any of those identified in the summer projects?
No. It falls under buildings and grounds.
Sorry for the question to you then.
That's all right.
Mr. Oliver,
But we work together whenever we can. If I can do something and sneak it in, or an ADA upgrade or something like that, we will do it.
Okay, great. Mr. Oliver, I'll catch up with you then later on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gothberg. It's an ambitious schedule, but so far we've been able to do these things. So I just want to thank you and your team and everyone else involved for all that. Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda: discussion action, Special Education Department structure. Mr. McCaffrey, Ms. Dambrook, and Mrs. Ruggieri.
Good evening again. We come before you tonight with the proposal for the special ed department structure. As you have seen and members of the community have seen, there is a packet in the school committee documents that includes roles and responsibilities for each of these positions in the proposal. Ms. Barber and Mr. Ollenbach prioritized things with their vision and their mission of the department and gave a general overview of the roles and responsibilities of those positions. Again, just like with every job description, they ebb and flow as needs change. This is, at this point in time, what the desired responsibilities are. This will grow as the positions grow. They've done a lot of great work already in the department in identifying what needs to be done, so this is just an extension of that work. So with that said, we come before you tonight, and I come on behalf of Superintendent Dambrook, Assistant Superintendent McCaffrey, and we ask for favorable action for the structure as follows. We're requesting 2 directors of special services, and that would be Jennifer Barber and David Ollenbach. We're requesting an assistant director of special education. This is a new position, so this would be an increase ask for that position and would be posted upon your approval. We are also proposing a senior manager of special education. That would remain Jennifer Evans. And finally, the behavior specialist facilitator, Brendan Ford. So if you have any questions, any of the 3 of us would be happy to answer for you.
Okay. First, I'll move it. Look for a second and questions. Okay. I'm going to move approval.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Discussion. Any questions for anyone?
I have, not questions, but comments, I would say. I know that you came in at a time when the department was probably at its lowest, with 3 people being moved to fill the shoes of 3, and there are 2 of you. Jen Evans is wonderful, but she can't do the job of an assistant director. And this structure on its own, with just 2 co-directors, I would not have supported. But with the assistant director, the roles will be changed, and you'll get the support you should have. I think any 2 people that would have been in that model would not have been able to do the job as efficiently as they would have wished to, because it's just too many kids. There's too many kids in the district for 2 people to go through this whole district and take care of it. With an assistant director, that will free up Jen for some other things for her to take on. Am I correct? Ms. Ruggieri, if not, please step right in and tell me, all right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And an assistant director will be very helpful to you. And I think that this district will be moving in the right direction. That's my opinion. I think it's going to happen, otherwise I wouldn't support it. but I do think that we're moving in the right direction.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
No, I'll also just make a few comments and then one request. I too was not in favor of the 2 co-director system. Again, eliminating the individuals and just looking at the structure itself. If it's sustainable in nature, the volume of work that you've inherited, and what you kind of need to address while also dealing with the day-to-day matters, nobody could have been successful in that structure. So I was not in support, 100% not in support of the 2 co-director system as proposed previously. And then taking into account all of the feedback that I've received from across the district, special educators across the district, and there being one common theme within their concerns, and applying what you're having now for what you're now proposing, I think that those concerns will be addressed. I also believe in some level of continuity. I know if I voted against the 2 co-director system that was previously before us, that obviously would have gone against that statement that I just made there. But I believe that the Special Services Department has gone through significant changes over the past 2 years. And I think we need to kind of just calm the waters a little bit, stabilize it. I'm sensitive to the current state and what you did inherit. So I certainly did not fault you for that, but I did have to take into consideration the challenges which our special educators are dealing with on a daily basis and how it could impact the kids, which as a father within the school district, I have some children that are certainly utilizing the resources of the Special Services Department. So, and then I think the first step in fixing a problem is acknowledging there is a problem and then crafting a reasonable action plan. The last time you presented before us, we didn't have that. And I was happy that this committee took the action it did by tabling it. Now seeing the action plan and seeing the new proposed structure and putting that all towards the concerns of the special educators along with some of the findings from the RIDE audit, I feel comfortable in the plan that's being placed before us. My one ask, though, of the 2 of you is please, please, please communicate this with the special educators within this district. You know, let them know what the plan is. Let them know how they're going to be supported. Certainly last week with the budget and all the new positions that we put in there, that's going to help us out. Adding another person beneath you guys, that's going to help us out. Some of the strategies that you've selected, that's going to help us out. But they need to know that now. And I'm asking you to please convey this to them, and let's finally get our house in order with special services. So with that, I yield.
Anyone else? Ms. Kirby-Chapman? Yeah.
I kind of second what he said. I am not in this position. I'm not an expert. You guys are the expert. So I just want to put that out there. I don't pretend to be. But I went to schools and listened to your people, and your people were saying that it wasn't working. So with the action plan and everything, it's like giving you the benefit of the doubt that you do know what you're doing. So hopefully you convince them of that.
Thank you. I'll just a couple of things. I would say that a lot of the work that you've been doing and a lot of the, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it cleanup work. The stuff you're overturning and finding, I would just submit to everyone that happened when we had the traditional model of a director and co-directors. So, you know, I don't think that the model is necessarily the problem, just in light of the fact that for years we had that and we still uncover problems. I agree with everyone else up here that you needed an extra position in there. We had to have that extra position. And the way you've spelled it out to us, I think it works. It's largely driven by the people in the positions. So there is some questions that we got on the senior manager position, but the way you explained it is it's more of a someone who makes the trains run on time and is a, I'm not sure how else to describe it except to make the trains run on time. You don't envision it as a special education specialist type thing. The way you explain it to me makes sense. I'm coming up with a poor analogy to explain that. And then the other things that you're looking to do in the future, like out of district and all that other stuff, if that comes to fruition, I think that was a brainchild of the both of you. So, I mean, that has a significant impact on students favorably, and it also has a significant impact on the budget too. So, I don't have a problem with this. I was very clear when you guys first came on. I'm not a fan of co-director models because I think they're personality driven. But I think you two have the personality to work together, and I think you've demonstrated it. You've only been here for 5.5 months or 6 months. So I think your vision for the department is good. I think what you have planned, what you'd like to do is good. You requested additional positions in the budget, and we approved them because they're needed. So I'm prepared to support it. So if there's nothing else, I'll just call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next items. Discussion action, Pilgrim Boys basketball team to New York, December of 2023. Mr. Hensler and Mr. Ricks. I see you there. Okay. Mr. Hensler, the floor is yours.
My name is Sean Hensler. I'm the basketball coach at Pilgrim High School. And I'm here tonight with the support of our principal and our athletic director to seek your permission to take the boys basketball team to New York City in December. I believe you have a draft itinerary, but I'll just briefly explain what we want to do and why we want to do it. What we want to do is go down and play a basketball game on a Friday night against a team that traveled up to Rhode Island and played us this past season. So the basketball is definitely a piece of it. But more importantly, and the main reason we want to take the kids down is the next day we want to take them to the 9/11 Museum and Memorial, and then take them out to the Ellis Island Museum, the Statue of Liberty. Why do we want to do this? You know, I tell the parents the first day that we select the team that the basketball court is an extension of the classroom. And I believe that a lot of the things that we do in the basketball court teach the kids some of those life skills like hard work, discipline, teamwork, unselfishness that matter. But this is going to the next level of trying to give them an experience that I know that they're going to remember. None of my team was alive during 9/11. I know 9/11 had a huge impact on all of us in the room, certainly me in my life and what I did in the military. And you know, immigration is a huge topic in this country, but I don't think any of the kids really know what Ellis Island is or the meaning of the Statue of Liberty or where it came from. So I think it would be a great opportunity for them to learn and to kind of have one of those lasting memories that they can take away. As far as the safety of the kids, which I gotta believe is a primary concern, we'll have 3 coaches that will be with them at all times. And right now I'm thinking in 4 chaperones, 4 parents that will chaperone at a minimum. My guess is many more parents will want to come with us, but they will be with us the entire time. So we'll have at least 1 chaperone for every 2 students the entire time. They're not going to leave our eyesight the entire time that we're down there. So that's a general outline of what I'd like to do, and obviously look for your permission to do it.
For a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
You want to go?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
Ms.
think it's
Hazelwood.
great because education needs to happen outside of the classroom, for sure. My kids went to New York City for their senior trip with 200 kids, and it was great. They had a great time, but you're bringing history into the picture, and very needed history. You said the 2 topics, immigration, 9/11. Those are great experiences for the kids, so I'm in favor of this.
Mr. Galligan?
I also agree that this is great. This is a good opportunity for the children. I hope other sports teams kind of copy what you're doing here. Just a quick question from a transportation perspective. Would you be driving? Are you going to contract a company?
Yeah, so we raised quite a bit of money this past season. I've got calls out to different companies. My goal is to contract out.
Okay.
And I'm expecting some estimates here in the next week.
That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't need any.
And that driver and vehicle will be with us the entire time.
Awesome. So I do appreciate you, as Ms. Hazelwood mentioned, extending the classroom, bringing them to a couple sites. I am in support of this. Just do me a favor, remind those patriots that outside of learning about those sites, that this is a business trip and we're going down there for a win, okay? Thank you.
Will do, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hensler. First, I want to thank you for your patience for waiting. Sometimes we're long-winded. I'm going to be the boring guy here. All the T's crossed, I's dotted as far as insurances, liabilities, all that other stuff. Mr. Gibbons, you're nodding your head. Mr. Ricks is nodding his head. That's fine. I have no problem with this. We've done similar things like this before. It's a Friday, so any schoolwork can be made up in advance or after. Final question: did they beat us when they came up?
They did. It was actually a close game, and we actually had our entire team there, so you might have seen us when we lost 3 kids to significant injuries this year, but they're a good team, and it's a great coach. Believe it or not, they travel to Florida, they travel to all over the country, so we don't have those kind of funds, but this will be a great, I know the kids are very, very excited about even the possibility of it, so I appreciate your consideration and hopefully your permission.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion action, WELC, FTE, Early Childhood Principal, Mrs. Barber and Mr. Allenbach.
Hi, good evening. Tonight we are requesting an early childhood principal and coordinator for WELC.
Looking for a motion to approve the early childhood principal for WELC.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No, this was in your budget, so this is fine. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion action, WELC, FTE, Early Childhood Coordinator.
Did we just approve that together?
I apologize, I did say them together. Okay. So that was my fault.
Yeah, all right, so that's fine. So we're going to take a motion to approve this one too.
Okay.
All right, so looking for a motion to approve the WELC, FTE, Early Childhood Coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion action, High School Program of Studies 23-24, Dr. Schultz.
Hi, good evening. I'm just asking to respectfully table this item until a later time. We're in the process of redoing part of the program of studies with just a policy that's being created right now, just to show and reflect the new high school regulations that are coming down from the Department of Ed. But I did send everyone a copy of it so you can get a sense of it. It won't change much, just the first few pages. And for everyone interested, it is on our website, so you can check it out, just in draft form, of course.
Okay. Motion to table item 10.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Opposed? Motion carries. All 92 pages, I might add.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, can I just?
Yes, Mr.
I
Gallagher.
do also have something.
Dr. Schultz, I've had a few people reach out with concerns regarding when AP testing is occurring,
Yes.
and also when senior projects are occurring, and that they're happening at the same time, and it's from an SEL perspective, adding additional stress onto these individuals at the secondary level. So I just make one comment. I don't even know if you're the appropriate person. I'm still learning roles and responsibilities up here, but if we could just kind of space those out a little bit in the
Sure.
upcoming year, that'd be appreciated.
I'll speak to the teaching and learning assistant principals about it tomorrow.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
All right, thank you.
I also have gotten some emails about that. They just would, I think at Pilgrim, they did spread it out, but they said at Tollgate, they were clustered together. So if we could get across the board at both ends of the city on the same schedule when it comes to something like that, so the kids are not as stressed. And also, Dr. Schultz, I know that we're not, going through this right now, but the world languages, the 2 years of world languages in 2028 that is in this, is that something that we definitely are going to have to, definitely?
Yes, that's something from the Department of Education, starting with the class of 2028, 2 years in the same world language is required.
And they can't, do culture clusters or, something like URI does, where they
Yeah.
can study a culture rather than actually have to learn a language. Is that something that may be optional?
So we've had several proposals for cultural type classes come in front of us, and there's a group of about 10 of us that approves the new course proposals. And we have not approved them because they won't meet the requirements that are asked for getting into four-year colleges, for example. And so we have to be really, really careful with some of the regulations with it. The thing is, there's no, we're still awaiting a little more information, and that's why we needed to table this, and we're working on this policy because it's not 100% clear cut right now. I'm sure that there will be ways to kind of work around it, but as of right now, it's 2 years speaking the language.
Thank you.
Yes, no problems. I wish I had a better answer, but it's in the works.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, item number 11, change order Demco, Mr. Oliver.
That's actually me.
I'm sorry, Dr. Taylor.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee. What we have before you with this item is a change order specifically for shipping for one of the items for Demco. Demco was the order previously approved for Oakland Beach. The order was presented knowing that one item they still need to estimate the shipping charge on. It was a 1,000-pound item that required 3 people to bring into the building. So rather than to hold up the large approval at the last meeting, we knew that we would have to come before you for that additional shipping charge for that one item. So that's what you have before you tonight.
Okay.
Motion to approve the change order for Demco.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Second, any discussion? No, Dr. Taylor, you and I had a long discussion about this yesterday, so I'm fine with it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
If it's okay, we'll take 12 and 13 together because they're both Mr. Oliver. Do that right? Okay, Mr. Oliver, discussion action on a M81 sewer snake. It makes me laugh when I say that. And contract award for Amazon Capital Services for HEPA filters.
Correct. I'm requesting your approval on these contracts. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, looking for motion to approve agenda items 12 and 13.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion action, Innovative Spaces Grant Supplies and Materials. Dr. Taylor.
Thank you. This item is more of the same. Each meeting we come forward to you with the latest round of purchases for innovation spaces. Fortunately, that's drawing near because the innovative spaces need to be completed by June 30th. So that's the next few items. You'll notice Warwick Vets for their CNC machines, which was requested by the teachers there, and Oakland Beach Elementary School for their Amazon stuff that they had requested. We'd ask for your approval.
Looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Taylor or Dr. Slaysell, are we almost done with this Innovative Spaces grant?
Yes, yes. We're waiting the last piece, and we're working with is the delivery of all of the large WB Mason items. So that may require an action next month.
Okay.
And beyond that, there may be smaller items that pop up. And then the only foreseeable piece we'd have is if I notice before the next school committee meeting, there's a little bit left in the $585,000, we may come before you for an additional expenditure as to not give that money back. So that would be the last piece as we fine tune the remaining of the budget.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item, discussion action, contract award, LTR Tutoring Associates, Dr. Schultz.
Yes, good evening again. I'm requesting your approval to help us train 29 additional teachers in the Foundations Phonics program that we use across the district in grades K to 2. Everybody else except for these 29 teachers have been trained just because they're either new teachers or grade changers, and we want to make sure that they're on board with everything and they understand the program through and through. And it is a budgeted expense.
Very good. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Dr. Schultz, encouraged that we still teach phonics.
Yes, it's very important, I've heard.
Yes, it
Yes.
is.
So, thank Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion action, contract award, International Charter School Title III ML Staff Professional Development. Dr. Cecil.
Yes, good evening again. This, using Title III funds, we have, I think it's 6 of our MLL teachers going to this training. If you approve it this summer, it's language acquisition training program. It's been highly touted as very, very effective, and it's being hosted at the International Charter School. I think it's about a 7-day program in July, and our teachers have asked to attend. So requesting approval.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion action, contract award, literacy resources for elementary classrooms. Dr. Cecil.
Yes, this is being funded with Title IV funds. Mrs. Pinero, our ELA coordinator, came with a request, did we have funds to support some additional literacy resources? And we had the funds, so we're requesting your approval.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, public comment. Same rules as the first one. 30 minutes total, 2 minutes per person. Please identify yourself when you come to the microphone. Please try to keep your comments to 2 minutes.
Good evening, Rob Cody, Ward 7. So, as you all know, I've been highly critical about the school construction proposal, and I've been very public about it. So I want to take a quick walk down memory lane, Mr. Testa. If you recall, when you had your meeting at the Crown Plaza, being in the business, I told you a couple things. I'm just going to go over a couple of quick ones. I told you that your proposal on structural steel and your numbers were a pipe dream, way off the map. And as you know, Mr. Testa, I've been asking you for the peer review for 3 months. You've been hiding it from us. But I got some of it now. Don't have all of it, but I got some of it. So just the line item on steel is up $24 million. $24 million. If you recall, I said to you, your projections on structural steel are a fantasy. 24 million, up. I told you that night, there's no possible way you're going to build 503,000 square feet of school for $350 million. But you lied to me, you lied to the city, you lied to the taxpayers, and you pushed it, knowing it was impossible. If you recall that evening, I said to you, I've been building schools for in excess of 25 years. I did my first one in 1997 when my wife was pregnant with my first daughter, Carolyn. And I said to you that night, I looked at one of the items that concerned me because you were carrying a 15% escalation on construction costs. And I said to you, in all the schools I built, we carry 8%. Well, here's your new costs, 8%. Why? So I'm looking at all your hard costs. Almost every single line item has skyrocketed. And by the way, this is as of January 5th. You know how good these numbers are? Throw them away. Throw them away. They're meaningless. Now, if you want to really do some good stuff, I would invite you to get one of your 8th grade students that's proficient in mathematics. And here's what you need to do if you want to get in the ballpark for your numbers. Take a pin, put it on the map in the center of Warwick, draw a 50-mile radius around Warwick. It's all public information. You get this in an hour. Look at every single school that's either completed or under construction in the last year and a half. Get the total square footage and the total costs of those schools. Divide the square footage into the costs, and you're going to come up with your square footage of construction cost realistic as of today. And I can tell you as of today, it's north of $800 a square foot. I don't care what anybody tells you. You've all been wrong on every aspect of the school construction, and I've been telling you this since day one. By the way, as I predicted a year ago, you won't build 503,000 square feet. You shrunk it down 50,000 square feet. That's not what you sold the general public. That's not what they voted on. They voted on 503,000 square feet with certain amenities. You've cut them all out. But the most interesting line item that I have, this is pretty funny. You have reduction strategies where you're cutting out $35 million worth of costs. But you don't have that itemized. You don't have that listed, your reduction strategies. What are your reduction strategies and why don't we have those itemized? I mean, it's a fantasy. It's not going to happen. Your numbers, Mr. Tester, and school department, if you're lucky with your reduction in the 50,000 square feet, if everything goes perfect, which it won't, you're looking at $382 million. Bare minimum. Bare minimum. That doesn't include your $11.7 million bonding fee. Why won't you release the rest of the peer review? I mean, it's okay to be wrong, but it's not okay to try to hide the fact that you've been wrong all along. And you've been wrong on something else, and I have to bring this to everybody's attention. I received an email the other day from a Warwick resident taxpayer by the name of Michael DeSilvia, and he sent me an email of a copy of an email, forwarded me an email that Mr. Testa sent him, and Mr. Testa said to him that on several occasions he has invited me to go to meetings with the engineers and the architects of the school construction program. That is an outright lie, and you know it. Never happened. We have had one email communication since I've known you, one. And it was when I expressed my opinion that I was not happy that you were not releasing the peer review, and then I was not happy that you couldn't ask questions at the school committee meetings on budget items. And you said that's the way it's been done, and the peer review is not a public item. That's what was said. So I take offense when you try to misrepresent something to a taxpayer and you use my name. And furthermore, if anybody knows me and knows my positions on the school construction and the business that I'm in, if you had invited me to speak or to listen or to go to a meeting with your engineers and your architects, who most of them I know because I deal with them, I would have been there, Mr. Testa, and you know that. You lied to a taxpayer and you used my name, and I think that's really despicable. You need to release these documents, and I'll leave you with this note. The City Council has now asked for another review on your costs. They want it by Monday. It's just been published. You know how many people are going to bid on this RFQ? You know how many people are going to bid? I'm going to predict you're going to get zero. Zero. It's too fast. There's too many documents. They expect you to look at the 2,000 plus pages of the Stage 2 documents, which I don't know if anybody has other than myself. You're not going to get anybody to do that.
Mr. Cody, now it's 6 minutes. I think I've been pretty generous. So
What's that?
I think I've been pretty generous. You're at 6 minutes, so.
I know Darlene gets as much time as she wants, but the point is, Mr. Testa, this has not been open to the general public. You need to reevaluate all of this. You need to release any documents that you have on this peer review from January 5th and be open and honest and stop with the charades.
Tracy McDermott, taxpayer, teacher assistant, special education, IES program at Warwick Neck. I've been a TA for 20 years, plus a little bit more in Warwick. So I am happy that you are adding the assistant director position to special services. We do still need a director, but I'm going to be happy with that for now. We're going to start on a positive note here. I have a lot of questions. The budget, there were 3 positions, there actually were 5 positions in special ed administration that were listed in the budget. behavior specialist manager for $77,275. Behavior specialist facilitator for $55,000. Senior manager of student services for $102,000, and then our 2 co-directors. As far as I know, when you did the last revamping of the special ed department and had the co-directors put in, the behavior specialist manager at the time was Jen Evans at $77,000, who now is the senior manager of student services at $102,000. That behavior specialist manager at $77,000 was never taken out of the budget. Nobody has said a word about it. It is in the budget. There is no person in that position. I'm hoping you're going to use the $77,000 to go towards the assistant director. I mean, it's a little bit of money. You could use it. A little shocked that nobody took it out of the budget, though, or even mentioned it. My other concern is that, well, there were rumors that maybe that position would be filled, but we just went over the positions that are going to be in the revamped special services department, and that is not one of them, so I'm assuming that's an added amount of money to your budget. The senior manager of special education, which was in your presentation today, currently has the title of Senior Manager of Student Services. Can we get everybody on the same page as far as titles go? Because is it a different person? You know, you've got to get, dot your I's and cross your T's, because titles matter. So let's get that correct. As far as the behavior specialist facilitator goes, when that was a new created position, and a major part of that position was CPI training. For those that don't know, that is crisis prevention and intervention training that every single TA, it is mandatory training for us. It is to de-escalate instances of aggression, behaviors within the building, within the classroom. We are trained every year. Once we have a full day of training, we do a refresher training class every single year. I've done it for 20 years. This past year, we've had training on the March PD day for the half-day refresher course. That only allowed 80 people. We have 220 plus TAs at this point. Tomorrow, there's a double session, morning and afternoon. My assumption is all the TAs will get their refresher. Here's the problem. Since job fair in August, we have hired, 24 TAs who have no training whatsoever because they need a full day of CPI training. We hired someone specifically to facilitate CPI training. That hasn't happened completely. The people that were supposed to get the full day training were told they get it in May. We have 30 days left of school. We have had people in classrooms with 0 training the whole school year. Those people got a letter last week saying they were not going to get the full training till next school year. A full year, some people have been in positions where they are not trained in how to de-escalate, restrain, escort, or any of the other things that we have to do in our daily life as a TA. So those are my concerns. I know you can't answer it now, but find the $77,000 and use it wisely. That's all I have to say. Thank you for that added position.
Hello, Darlene Netco. I spoke at the first public comment also, so I won't list my usual list of descriptions. First, once again, I have to, since someone used my name in public comment, I am the Darlene. There aren't many others around. Rob sees fit to mention me. I think at the beginning of this meeting, I might have had more than 2 minutes because I was the only person at the microphone, but I certainly didn't use 30. I think if you go back in the 33 years I've been attending these meetings, I have had the timer go off, and I have been told that my 2 minutes are up, and I have calmly left the microphone and sat down and let other people speak. So I just wanted to clear that up, because although I may have had more than 2 minutes, although Mr. Cody was not here at the beginning of the meeting, so he would not have known that I had more than 2 minutes, perhaps. I wasn't timing myself. I'm sorry that I have to take time to address that, but since my name was mentioned, I want to just clear that up. Go look at past recordings when I was told to sit down. What I really wanted, though, was to say something positive, which was just to recognize all of the Warwick teachers in the Warwick Teachers Union. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, and I just want to mention my appreciation for each and every one of them. Throughout this nation, if you watch the nightly news, you read national news periodicals, you can see that there's a crisis right now in the teaching profession. Many people are leaving. The last few meetings, we've had a number of teacher retirements, resignations, so forth, because this is not an easy job to do, and it gets more and more difficult every year. We talk about the social, emotional situation with our students. Well, teachers are human beings too, and we suffer under the same social and emotional issues that come with coming off a pandemic. And I just want to remind everyone about the workload that teachers carried during the pandemic. Teachers taught in 3 or more modalities. When we had students in person in front of us, students who only stayed at home learning virtually, students on the hybrid plan who were some in some day, some in the other. Teachers had to do at least 3 lesson plans for every one lesson and accommodate the needs of every student virtually and in front of them. And I did it at the high school level, and it was challenging enough, but can you imagine the work our elementary teachers did, especially for kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, having to be able to reach students who hadn't even been able to set foot in a school yet and learn what it was like to be with their peers, and learn how to work together and make eye contact in front of each other and have to do it over a computer. And our teachers did it. Every single day, showed up, created all of these different lesson plans in all of these different ways. Teachers put together packets and bags and boxes and delivered them to homes so our students would have the math manipulatives that they needed, or would have the reading resources that they needed, or whatever they needed in order to function. And our teachers did it, and they did it without any extra compensation, and they are continuing to work as we come out of COVID. And so I just wanted to mention publicly, acknowledge Teacher Appreciation Week, and that I appreciate all of us teachers, all of the teachers in this district, and I just want to remind everyone how hard we work. And sometimes what we get as thanks is being blamed, being bullied, being harassed, being told what we're doing isn't enough. I'm not saying from administration, but I'm saying, you know, the public at large has some pretty strong opinions sometimes. And we don't deserve that. We deserve to be thanked for all of the hard work that we do. And I just want to acknowledge, I know we have a few teachers here in the audience, many more listening at home. And thank you. And as far as AP testing goes, the College Board sets the schedule for AP testing. It's a 2-week window, 1st and 2nd week in May. As far as senior project goes, if you hold it before the 2-week window, it's kind of too early, and if you hold it after, it's kind of too late, because now you're getting into the end of the year. There is a course, AP Language and Composition, that only juniors take, so you might want to look at the day that that test is given, or the AP Euro, because juniors mostly take that one, and then maybe you could hold senior project on that day. But in general, there are very few conflicts for most seniors when it comes to AP testing. Thank you.
Jacob Medor, Warwick resident, Warwick teacher, proud product of the Warwick school system. Just echoing what Ms. Necco said about the SATs and senior projects and how we really can't control when the AP exams and window is. But one thing we can control is the honors night. That's something that can go before, it can definitely go after. And if you look at the students who take the APs and the students who participate in honors night, I would be willing to bet that there's a very, very, very strong correlation. And at Torgate, honors night is this week. So that's an easy fix, something that is well within our capabilities. And the students really, along with the added stress, they need to be focusing on the exam, not sitting in an auditorium getting awards. They need to be focusing on the exam. So that's just my thought, small thing, but could have a big impact on the exam scores. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? The superintendent, you have something before we...
Yes. I would just like to announce that the Deputy Commissioner has approved our waiver for women not to make up the 3 days that they've lost due to construction. So we did message that out to all Winman families and community and students. So we're relieved to hear that. So.
Some good news. Okay, future meetings, Policy Subcommittee meeting May 18th at 4 p.m., Achievement Subcommittee May 23rd at 2:30 p.m., Monthly School Committee meeting June 6th, 2023, obviously. Warwick School Building Committee June 7th, Health and Wellness Committee June 21st at 6 p.m. I'm sorry, Warwick Monthly School Committee meeting June 6th, 7 p.m., Warwick School Building Committee June 7th, 7:30 a.m., Health and Wellness Committee meeting June 21st, 6 p.m. There being no other business for this committee, seek a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.